Okay, so you're going to come up and you're going to get a couple of pieces of clay. You're going to get one piece of clay that you're going to break in half. The clay's a little soft, but as soon as you start working with it, it starts to dry out. And first thing you want to do is make it into a ball. How many of you made pinch pots before? If you made a pinch pot, this is going to be super duper easy. You're going to know what you're doing. Okay, so I like to make two about the size of maybe a baseball, not quite as big as a softball. That's a little too big. And you want to make them pretty even. I know you can't see the fact that I'm rolling it. And it gets pretty boring to watch some of this stuff, but I'm going to roll that into a ball. This one's not quite as big, so I'm going to add a little bit more to it. This clay is really soft, so you can add it without having to add slip at this point, but I will show you the importance of using slip. What slip is this thinned out. A lot of people think it's just like watery clay. That's not exactly what it is, but it does help attach the two pieces together, and it's kind of crucial because when you add two new pieces of clay together, you need to knit them together. You need to form it into one piece of clay, otherwise it'll break apart. Okay, so even though we're not to that stage yet, if you think about if I take two pieces of clay, or if I just take my hands and I put them together like this, and I ask someone to come pull my hands apart, you think you can? No. Pretty much anybody in this room can probably pull my hands apart. My 9-year-old daughter can probably pull my hands apart. But if I take my fingers and I lock them like this, and you can try it yourself, there's a lot more resistance, right? It's a lot harder to pull my hands apart. Think about like if you go to give somebody a step up, right? What do people do? They lock their fingers together, right? It's stronger. So when we go to put the two pieces of clay together, we're going to move from one side to the other so that the clay will merge. But for right now, though, what we first want to do is we just want to start by making a couple little pinch pots or pinch bowls. So since this clay is really soft, I'm going to start them off with the walls a little bit thicker. Otherwise, they're going to collapse on me anyway. I want to get two that kind of look and feel. I'm not going to weigh them. I'm not going to put them on a scale, but I want them to be about the same size. All right, because I make my guys out into a nice circle. Now, I did cut my thumbnail off today. I mean, trimmed it, not an accident. I trimmed my thumbnail because my nails were kind of long, and it's a little hard to pinch and not have your nails go into the clay when they're long. So if you have long nails, they could get a little bit in the way. But all I'm going to do, once I have it where it's a pretty nice even sphere, is I'm just pushing my thumb in, and I'm just working my way around. Okay, I'm pinching in as I go. I'm kind of indenting the outside a little bit more than I'd like because I'm working quickly. So normally I wouldn't go this fast, but I'm just turning it and pinching it, and you can see how it's hollowing it out. I want to make the walls an even thickness, and typically we usually recommend that you don't make it any thicker than like your index finger as far as the thickness. A lot of people call it the rule of thumb. Don't make it any thicker than your thumb. So unless you're Andre the Giant and you have those ginormous hands, well, you're probably okay with going for a thumb thickness. But the thicker it is, the more it's going to weigh. All right, so the more the clay is going to cost in the long run too. So now I'm just kind of palming it in one hand, pressing it on the other side. I'm not, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to put it together with a second piece. All right, so this is what those of you who are done with your last project can start working on. I just want to get it so it's pretty even. A fairly nice dome shape, doesn't have to be perfect, and it now looks like a half of a sphere again. All right, take the other one, do the same thing. I know it's boring, but I need you guys to watch up here. Do the second one, go really fast. I should have gotten an expert up here to make one while I was talking, or pre-made a couple, I don't know. Okay. So once I have two of them that are about the same size, the next step is I'm going to attach them to each other to make a bigger sphere, a hollow ball, okay? So I'm going, like I said, a little fast. You guys, I don't want you to work this fast. I want you to take your time, try and get the consistency or thickness of the wall pretty even. I don't want to get it like really wet. People have a tendency to want to take slip and paint it on and smear it all over the outside to smooth it. Don't do that. Resist. Okay? Don't do that.
It's a lot harder than what it looks.
No. Nothing's ever a lot harder than it looks.
Right.
Okay. Well, mine won't be perfect, and maybe that'll make you feel better. Okay. I also don't want to, you got to be careful to because you don't want to flatten it out. But anyway, you want to get it so it's fairly even. And one way I can tell is to pinch all the way around. And if the distance that my fingers come together when I pinch is about the same, then I can assume it's a fairly even consistency on the wall thickness. Okay. Now, if you take the time and make it a little bit more even, you're also going to see that this is going to be fairly even and fairly consistent. Otherwise, when you go to put the two halves together, it can be a challenge. So we're going to pretend like I did that. And I'm going to take a fettling knife, and I am going to score the edge. All right. The reason I'm just, putting a little bit of texture on it. I've seen people use a fork to do this. But you're wanting to get this just so you can get some area for the slip to go down into. And I want to do it on both halves. Like I said, the clay is a little softer than I'd like for this. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more gentle with it. Okay, so I've done that on both pieces. Can you guys see that? I've got it where it's scratched up a little bit. Then I'm going to take the slip and I'm going to paint it on. And you want to get a fair amount on there, okay? There's the fun little quote that'll help you remember, if it doesn't ooze, you lose. So you have to put enough on it so when you put the two halves together, some of it oozes out. And I'm making sure that it gets down into all of those cracks that I just made. Because those cracks could make air bubbles. I don't want air bubbles. Because what happens in the kiln is all materials heat and expand, and the rate in which they heat and expand varies based on the material. So air heats and expands, and it rises, right? That's how hot air balloons work. All right, so if you have an air pocket in the middle of a wall of clay, it's going to heat and expand rapidly. The clay will not heat and expand rapidly, so I heard someone say it. It'll have little explosions. Okay, so I got the two halves, right? And I'm going to kind of turn and see if there's a way that looks better than others. And see, I should have double-checked the size a little bit more first and made sure they were close. But anyway, I'm going to stick it together, and I'm going to twist it a little bit. And as I do this twisting motion, I can feel it stick. Okay? It's wanting to stick. The slip that's in there is sticking the two pieces together. And then I'm going to want to take, normally I would take like a wooden knife or even my finger. And like I said about locking the two sides together is I want to take the clay from this side and move it to that side. And then I want to take some of this clay and move it back. So basically it's by doing those two things, instead of it being two pieces that are just butted up against each other, it becomes one piece of clay. I'm going to do that all the way around. I don't want to dig too hard or I'm going to make it collapse. Again, you're going to want to take a little bit more time than this. I'm going to work my way around until the whole thing is put together. And then when I go to start trying to smooth it, sometimes there's a ridge right there that you can see, and I don't want to see that ridge. So sometimes what you have to do is make a little coil and put it in there. So put a little bit more slip, put a little coil of clay down in there. You can even do that ahead of time. So this is what I mean by a little coil of clay. There's enough slip down in there anyway. So I'm filling that gap in. And then I'm knitting it together. Okay. Well, this one's probably going to fall apart too, so it's okay. So one of the things that we need to remember is part of the learning process is... I wouldn't call it failing. It's just learning, right? It's experimenting and not being afraid to fail. I think that at this stage in your life, most people are so afraid to fail that they're not willing to try and experiment, right? So just know that if you don't like it, you can smush it and make another one, right? So what I want to do is I do want to get this all the way around, okay, and get it as smooth as even as I can. And because it is a solid airtight sphere, air pressure on the inside will help it stay rounded. Okay? If I were to cut an opening in it now, it could completely collapse on me because it's kind of soft. But right now, there's pressure on the inside. The air is creating pressure. So it's not real likely to collapse. I have to finish sealing it up, but I can handle this, right? I'm not like treating it like it's an egg that's going to crack or anything. But I do want to keep working my way around, getting it soft. I'll try and find some more canvas for you guys. You can do this on newspaper, but I can roll it around on the table. And in doing that, the fabric's going to draw some of the moisture out, okay, and allow me to get it smoother. All right? I probably made this one a little on the larger side too. Well, here's one of the unfinished ones, but they shrink about 10% when they're fired. So they will be smaller once they're fired. If you make it too large, it's actually more difficult to work with in some ways, just because of the weight and the maneuverability of it. But if it's too small, it's hard to get the fine details. So anyway, those of you who have finished your figure sculptures, we're going to hang those out in the hallway. And if you look out in the hallway, you'll see where other people have already done that. We're going to hang those up out in the hallway. But if you're ready to start this, you can come up and get a couple small pieces of clay and start at least attempting your first pinch pot. Any questions? Ready? Ready, set, go. Okay. Yeah.
Where do we get canvas?
There's some back in the corner back there, and I will hunt for some more for you.